Imagine living a double life, attending college during the week and racing cars on the weekends. Oh, and by the way, the kids at school don't know your true identity. Sounds like a Hollywood screenplay, right? But for 19-year-old Kristen Powell, that fantasy double life is real. She's called the world's fastest teenager, a professional drag racer who leaves men twice her age in the dust. Goin Deep correspondent Libby Weaver joins us on the Fast Track.
Putting on a crash helmet, gloves, and grabbing a good luck charm. Imagine straining to hear last-minute instructions above the deafening roar of the chest-rattling engines, knowing that what's being said could decide whether you'll survive the next 5 seconds. Then imagine being strapped in front of an engine that was built for raw speed, a series of belts, the only defense from the impending G-forces. Now imagine you're 19, you're female, and you're about to go a quarter of a mile in less than 5 seconds.
Kristen, the three little
kittens lost their mittens and they begin to cry.
Even at a young age, Kristen Powell was a performer. Her first arena was a riding ring, and at the age of 13, she rode her horse to a U.S. National Dressage Championship. But by 15, she yearned for more speed and decided to trade in her one horse for 6,000. Kristen fired up her first hot rod the week before she turned 16. Now, less than 4 years later, she's competing in the top drag class, earning over $100,000 per year. There is only one other woman competing on the National Hot Rod Association Top Fuel circuit, and most of the drivers are at least a decade older.
I think it's one of those things that was in the right place at the right time. If my father hadn't raced, or if he wasn't sponsoring cars at the time that I started getting interested, I wouldn't have done it. I would probably be doing something else.
Casey Powell had been a drag racer in the early 70s, but after a few years on the circuit, he packed it in to raise a family. Years later, the youngest of his 3 daughters would pull him right back to the pits.
I didn't get my daughter involved in the sport. I take no responsibility for that. I exposed her to it.
Over the years, Casey would routinely take his young girls to the races, but it was Kristen that felt most at home. It seems that racing was in the Powell bloodline, and his baby girl had the need for speed.
I found a 67 Camaro that I just had to have, and I got that. And I said, Dad, I need to race. I want to drag race locally. And he said, well, let's go to Frank Hawley's drag racing school because you could really learn how to race well there.
She attended the school in Florida, receiving her license to drag before she could even take out the family station wagon, and quickly reached the highest drag racing category, Top Fuel. Here, drivers strap themselves into nitromethane-burning dragsters. These cars are the fastest machines in the racing world.
Look, I'm always scared. I mean, Kristen will tell you also that when she gets into a car, she's scared. Anybody who isn't scared is out of their mind. I mean, these cars are absolute monsters.
And that's what I love about it. It's not scary uncomfortably. It's scary like it's a rush. It's an adrenaline rush.
The 2,100-pound cars, costing over $175,000, are often referred to as rockets on wheels and are capable of going over 300 miles per hour. Lightning-quick reflexes, confidence, and a sixth sense about how your car behaves are vital in handling these beasts.
The engine's just loud, it's blaring behind you. Everything, all the excitement, there's fans lining the quarter mile, and you just have to focus on that tree. You take a big deep breath, you get all ready to go. 3 lights will light up all at the same time, and that's my cue to slam that pedal down. I'll slam my right foot down on the pedal as hard as I can. In less than a second, I'm already 60 feet out on the track going 100 miles an hour. My head's thrown back at you know, before you know it, all of a sudden you're at half track. You're just waiting for something to go wrong. You're just looking for the finish line going, okay, where is it? It's about time. Come on, where is it? Finally, you hit the finish line. It's almost like a relief. You could lift off the pedal. You hit both parachute buttons. You get thrown forward in the seat. And finally, the car is slowing down. You're starting to come down from your rush. And that's all in 4.5 seconds. Oh, yeah!
As she heads for the pits after surviving the 5G rush, the same force that pins astronauts back on launch, she celebrates with her dad and older sister Carrie. Racing has become a true family affair for the Powells. Dad's company, Sequent Computers, helps sponsor the car, and Big Sis works as part of her crew. Even Kristen's first win, which took place in New Jersey, was a case of deja vu for the Powell clan.
The last race I ever drove was in the right lane at Englishtown. I drove a rear-engine fuel dragster and broke the motor. And, you know, 20, 25 years later, we go back to the same track, and Kristen's driving, and in that same lane, she wins the race. Well, that's the luck of the draw. It could have been me, I guess, but as it turns out, it was Kristen, and I couldn't be happier.
Her fellow racers were a different story. They were a little reluctant to accept her at first. After all, she was a young girl in a very macho sport. But by becoming only the 6th woman to win an NHRA event, and having run a 4.59, the 10th quickest ever by a woman or a man in racing history, she's proven that she can compete with the big boys. And veteran racers like Gary Selsey have welcomed her with open arms.
I think it's great. It gives the younger people someone to root for. She does an excellent job. She's very mature for her age. Tough competitor, and I think she's going to cause a lot of problems for us men.
Crew Chief Mike Clover and his team are banking on it. They're not only confident in their own ability, but also in their young driver.
She's extremely focused, and she's a very fierce competitor, and we're just letting her get seasoned right now and honing those competitive skills that she has naturally.
Kristen may be the second youngest person in history to win a top category drag race, but at the age of 19, she's not just concerned with hitting the road, she's also concerned with hitting the books. Kristen's entering her sophomore year in college, and like everything else she does, she's aiming for the top. With a heavy course load and a full racing schedule that crisscrosses the country, her life has become a virtual juggling act.
When is your last class? On Thursday? So
Yeah, Thursday afternoon, so it's going to be tough because I can't get to the airport.
So the fall semester, it's going to be harder to leave for the races. We're going to have to go. We've got Indianapolis, and then
Reading, and
we've got Reading.
Unlike on campus, this 19-year-old attracts a lot of attention on the track. Well, I've seen the crowds, all the fans. I mean, how do you get used to all that?
I think it's something that I just have to give it a little more time, and I went from being just this normal teenager to being someone who's on TV and signing autographs. It's just amazing. And then sometimes you're out there and you go, hold on a second, you just take a break, you step back and you look at it, you just go, wow, you know, what an opportunity I have here. Look at how lucky I am.
Luck plus skill have just been part of the equation. There's also been plenty of sacrifice.
And look at the kid. She is tickled to death. Congratulations to Kristen Powell. Almost makes missing the prom well worth it.
Well, people say, you know, do you have a loss of social life and stuff like that? When we won Englishtown, I skipped my senior prom. And people were like heartbroken over that. They thought, oh, you skipped your senior prom, it's got to be terrible. It's just one of those things. I'd rather be racing. I've never really been into that. I went to my junior prom and that was enough for me. And I'd rather go out there and race this car at 300 miles an hour. So that's what I decided to do.
Well, are there times when you maybe think, well, maybe she shouldn't be doing this?
So I've always told all of my children that you can do whatever you want to do. And then you have to really stand up for them when they do that.
I remember when I was growing up, my father always told me you could do anything you set your mind to. And that's how I've lived my life, and that's the attitude I've always had. And so when people say, a girl driving a race car that goes 300 miles per hour, I just laugh in their face. I'm like, oh, just wait, just watch, and I'm going to do it.
And joining me now is Libby Weaver. Libby, I would say it's fair to say and safe to say that Kristen's days of doing this in secret from her classmates are probably gone.
Absolutely. She wants to remain incognito, but I don't think that's going to happen. She's been in a national sports magazine. USA Today did an article on her. She's got a new sponsorship from Reebok and Chevrolet, so basically the cat's out of the bag.
And one little note, she always insists on driving her friends to the mall, which is a tip-off.
And they get there quickly.
That's right. Libby, thank you.
Sure.